Welcome back. South Africa and India are entering a new phase of cooperation driven by the G20's push for practical, tech-focused partnerships. From digital public infrastructure to financial inclusion and modernized banking systems, both countries are now moving from high-level diplomacy to real delivery. To help us break down how the shift is playing out on the ground, we are joined by Eshmael Mpabanga, country head and senior vice president at Intellect Design. Eshmael, thank you for making the time to speak to us. We have heard that the G20 has accelerated South Africa and India cooperation, but from your view, what are the shifts that you are seeing that show that this partnership is really starting to move from diplomacy to real delivery?
Absolutely. Thank you, Palesa, and hello to all your viewers. You just had a great segment on Zimzam. I really enjoyed that. But look, where we currently stand, what really stood out for me at the G20 this year is that it pushed South Africa and India from diplomacy into delivery, as you said, right? As an example, India drove the African Union's admission as a permanent G20 member. That's 55 countries getting a formal seat in global economic decisions. That's huge for us. And that shift alone changes the tone of cooperation between the two nations. Now, when I say from diplomacy to delivery, this is real movement. And we're now starting to see concrete work streams sharing its digital ID expertise, which has onboarded 1.3 billion people on Aadhaar. And I'll touch on Aadhaar shortly. It's the world's largest digital identity system and something that South Africa and the African continent can leverage. This basically has strengthened what we call in the markets as building or modernizing digital identity layers. So on the South Africa side, our regulators are talking about strengthening instant payments. India does around 12 billion UPI transactions a month. That's the world's highest, mind you, and there's interest in learning from that scale in South Africa and across the African continent.
Yeah, and I can say that building a digital public infrastructure has become a major talking point. Where do you see the strongest opportunities for South Africa to tap into India's proven digital frameworks?
Look, for me, it's also about leveraging the power of the global south. That is the fast lane, right? It's the natural fast lane forming between us. And it's really, I guess, complementary between the two countries in terms of Aadhaar, which I mentioned, in terms of UPI, which is instant payments, and as well as ONDC, which is an open commerce network, now gaining global attention. From a South Africa perspective, we have a highly sophisticated banking ecosystem, and that's starting to filter into the rest of the Africa regions by virtue of the structures that have been built within the banking system itself. So we have a strong regulatory environment. We've got SARB, we've got PASA, and major banks already are starting to dive deeper into digital transformation. So this mix in itself creates a natural fast lane for collaboration. So I really believe that these bilateral agreements, these discussions that have been taking place, of course, being driven by the G20 and the B20, which I had the privilege of attending, and some key breakaway sessions. I believe that South Africa brings a banking sector among which is the top three globally for stability. And as a fintech, we look at market growth. We're looking at the market growing at nearly 10 to 12% annually.
Okay. But for companies like yourselves, what kind of demand are you seeing, especially as banks in South Africa continue to look into modernizing their systems?
Yeah, look, I mean, at Intellect Design Arena, we're a global fintech, mind you. So we operate in 61 countries. We have 3 decades of domain experience as a fintech. And we have one promise, right, to drive business growth for financial institutions through enhanced operational efficiency, implementation certainty, and lowering that TCO. It is a promise that we have kept. We are the only composable and contextual financial technology company, and core to what we do is providing enterprise-grade financial technology. Now, why is that key? It creates an opportunity within the African context to build a financial sector that is fully digitized, right? So the real bridge, and banks in South Africa and India are pursuing similar modernization paths. In India, the major banks like SBI and HDFC are running multi-year core upgrades. South Africa, we see the same with our top 4, top 5 banks. And all this heavy investment within these industries, the sector in particular, collectively spends over $30 to $35 billion a year in technology. So I see this as the bridge, as mentioned. There's some shared standards, cloud adoption, composable architecture, which is what we pride ourselves on, and AI-powered services. So I think as a continent, being driven from South Africa as a hub, we're servicing the continent, and I see that this as something that will take shape over the next few years.
Yeah, and Eshmael, just looking at the scale of the fintech growth in South Africa, in your view, what lessons from India's digital leap can be adapted to strengthen South Africa's own financial inclusion drive?
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier, but I also think it's important for us to not look at it as a lift and shift. It's not a copy and paste. There are tremendous lessons from payments, from digital identity systems, looking at how we drive commercial networks, and then ensuring that there's global attention, right? Again, there's still a ways to go, but I really believe that there's tremendous lessons to be learned, not just from the India context, but from some of the other markets. You look at the BRICS, to start bringing inclusive banking, inclusive finance to the African market. And I believe those are the real opportunities to see Africa grow and to stand up and be counted.
Yeah, no, it is clear that the opportunities in this sector are vast. I mean, just not so long ago, we even heard of Pepco that is considering to also open up a financial service, to become a financial service provider and open up a bank. But Eshmael, let's leave it there for now. We'll chat sometime in the future. And that was Eshmael Mpabanga, who's the country head and senior vice president at Intellect Design. Let us go into another short break. We'll be back with you just shortly after this.